Well, and right on time at 11 o'clock on a Tuesday, and we have put together, assembled a dream team of guests this morning. I'm Teddy Dimitriadis. I'm in studio with Kostas Perdikakis, as well as our Consul General Simeon Tegos. We heard from Professor Petro Vambaka, and then we also heard from David Paleologos, and now, again, rounding out today's dream team, it is Manny Frangiadakis. Manny, good morning. Kalimera.
Good morning, Kalimera.
We got a full team. We've had a very busy broadcast and couldn't think of a better person to wrap it up with than yourself, Manny.
Manoli
I
Kalimera.
appreciate that. Well, I'm in great company, so thank you for including me.
Yeah.
So,
Lipon, Manny's going to Greece very shortly. We were going to be discussing at the end of your conversation reasons to go to Greece. But, Manny, I'm sure you're looking forward to it. And, in advance, bravo, Gorimo.
I
Congratulations.
know, if I'm not mistaken,
Big day coming up.
You leave in tomorrow.
Avreo Bradi.
Well,
Bravo.
Mani μου συγχαρητήρια.
so, so I'm looking forward to meet with you. I'm leaving Tuesday night. So,
Bravo.
Yeah. Anyway, Manny, let's defer to you. What's been going on with the big, beautiful tax bill now, kind of right up the financial alley. What's hot and what's not this week, and what should we expect?
Look, there hasn't been that much that's really taken place over, call it, the last week or two, right? You've had a pretty good recovery from the April lows. The S&P 500's up 25% since those lows, but flattish compared to the rest of the world. The dollar has been in a massive decline, but you did have some recovery on Sunday night after a bad day for the dollar on Friday. So that that could now start to rework itself. I'm sure everyone that is traveling to Greece has noticed that the euro has appreciated quite a bit as the dollar has declined across all G7 and G10 currencies, and even EM for that matter. So,
Manoli, can you tell us why the dollar has devaluated?
Yeah, and what is it today? About
117.
117.
Yeah, the euro's 117. But look, the dollar has declined for a number of reasons. Number one, tariffs play a factor, right? So less foreign capital potentially coming here as they continue to rework and go through a negotiation process. The dollar has also declined due to the fact that we have exploding deficits. And to your point, the big, beautiful bill continues to accelerate the spending of the U.S. government. And we know that we really don't have a revenue problem. Taxes aren't really the issue here. Of course, keeping the tax rate where it is for corporations right now, I think, is important, and that's one of the major things that the big, beautiful bill accomplishes. But at the same time, what our long-term problem is spending. And that is what the bond market is sniffing out. So as you've seen yields rise and potentially a problem with the United States deficit, it's stopped really attracting foreign buyers, right? So we issue treasuries on a monthly basis that we hope to sell to the rest of the world to help fund, our payments and debt payments. And right now it's been somewhat lackluster. But don't forget, the dollar also rallied 7% at the end of 2024 going into Inauguration Day. So you did have a pretty strong dollar towards the end of 2024. We're giving some of that back. But if you just wanted to look at 2025 in totality, it's the worst start to the dollar since 1973, so about 50 years.
Mm-hmm.
So those are the real main reasons. And I also think there's just...
So what is the forecast, Manoli? What is going to look like let's say, like the end of this year?
I think, gun to my head, Costa, you should see the dollar start to rally here short term. But if we wanted to look longer term out and say outside of the next couple months, and let's say you have a bounce in the dollar during that period, I do think that your long-term trend for the dollar is to continue to decline. Because at the end of the day, we're still pricing in a number of rate cuts heading into probably at this point 2026. Following last week's payroll report, I think your July rate cut is completely off the table here. And that's only going to leave you with two Fed meetings, really, that are going to be live for the rest of 2025. So your dollar rate cuts or your federal funds rate cuts should occur in 2026. And a lot of that is going to depend on who President Trump appoints next as the next chairman of the Federal Reserve. I do think it's going to be Hassett. I think all signs point to that. What could get the dollar to even weaken further as we go into that potential change will be as if they form some level of a shadow Fed where you now have Hassett essentially talking to the market of what he will be doing once he takes the reins from Chairman Powell. So I do think short term you should see a bounce in the dollar. That will be, that you'll see the euro tick down. You should see gold and some commodities tick down. But long term, I do think we have some structural issues here in the United States that will continue to have, the dollar declining.
Μας έκανε στη καρδιά περιβόλη.
But it's going to give you, but it's also, it's going to give
But
you
that's okay.
It's going to give you opportunity. So in the short term, what is that going to mean? You're going to see some weakness internationally, and I think you're going to see some weakness in emerging markets. But those are most likely buying opportunities.
So, Μανώλη, αντί για ψάρι θα τρώμε φασολάδα, μου φαίνεται, στην Ελλάδα.
Exactly. So, yeah, όχι τα καλύτερα.
You know what just came to my attention is the fact that, we travel to Greece here, and we are able, to pay a little bit more for the euro. Are the Greeks coming here as a result of getting a little bit more value out of the euro?
No, not really, and it's just because of how this administration has aligned itself on an international stage. So U.S. travel and U.S. tourism is actually down for quite a bit from last summer levels. So you've actually seen less foreigners travel here, even due to the fact that you have a declining dollar. And I think a lot of that has to do with, what is being telegraphed on the news about, ICE and, I think people have fears of potentially coming here, whether they're rational or irrational, is having that level of effect. So
there's a problem with the World Cup. Next year, the World Cup will take place over here, and a lot of people, they haven't really expressed any interest to come. They will come to Mexico, they will go to Canada, but not United States. So it's another issue.
Manny, he mentioned Canada. What are we hearing about Canada of late? And what effects has it had? I think we touched on this briefly a couple of weeks ago, but, we know that there's an awful lot of United States vehicle. I think GM has several plants in Canada. They're not they're assembly plants. Tariffs, bringing those down to us. So what's going on? And again, does a Chevrolet made in the USA car, a GM sales up as a result of what's going on of late? What are you hearing?
Look, it's all getting reworked, and the new version of NAFTA will be a part of that process. The story going into the weekend and the holiday, obviously now, you have two major things that the administration is focused on: Big Beautiful Bill and trade negotiations, right? So you had that 90-day pause. Actually, headline just came across my terminal, and it says that Trump just said he's not going to extend the August 1st deadline. So you will start to see volatility taking place again in equities and in the market due to the fact that things are percolating again. And that's going to have ramifications for NAFTA and, Mexico and Canada, but as well as other trading partners, including the European Union, including Japan and China. They're trying to be very strong right now and strong-arm Japan. But a lot of this stuff doesn't make sense. Like, I'll give you a perfect example. Like, we want to put a 35% tariff on Bangladesh, who makes many of the clothes that the U.S. consumer purchases. And the average per capita income in the country is $2,820, according to their Bureau of Statistics. So when you put all that together, are those people going to buy an F-150? So some of this resonates, some of it does not. Look, I do think we're going to get to a point where a lot of it is worked out. But that's the key component. The key component is as we know, that small businesses, as much as we pay attention to the NVIDIAs, the Metas, the Googles of the world, small business still makes up the largest hiring base in the United States and does contribute quite a bit to GDP and the economy. Small business has been struggling here. They have the most to lose as it relates to tariffs and price increases and inflation. So, the question is can we get this all packaged up, put together, before we potentially tick ourselves or teeter into recession?
Very good, very good.
I think we will figure it out. I think, there's a method to potentially this madness, and, deals will be had. The question is what volatility takes place between now and then, and, if it's after August 1st, then we have more tariffs that are going to be added, and, if they try to strong-arm people, they're going to increase that tariff rate to try to get a deal done.
Manny Frangiadakis joins us each and every Tuesday. You know, find freedom and security with a team built on integrity. That's what you get with 12 points. Experience the freedom to feel secure about your finances. Allow them to meet and exceed your expectations through clear, consistent communication, like he does with us each and every Tuesday, and attention to detail. Manny, I know that you're going to be traveling to Greece, leaving tomorrow. We're going to try to hook up on the following couple of Tuesdays, but if by any chance you can, it's completely understandable. We're just so proud of you. We love you so very much. Very big day in the Frangiadakis family coming up, and we wish you nothing but love and laughter with Kerry. Nothing but that.
July 20th is the big day, Manoli. Η ώρα η καλή, θα είμαστε εκεί. Εγώ θα είμαι πρώτος στο δεξί σου χέρι. I know your father left yesterday. We're looking forward.
Closing comments for our audience, Manny?
Yeah, look, let's definitely do a show next week on the 15th. So we'll commit to that, and then we'll figure out the 22nd after that. But look, closing comments for the audience. I think you're going to see some volatility, pick up here. I think that volatility is going to get eaten up in terms of people buying stocks and indices again. I think we have a tremendous wave of momentum right now, even with all the negative headlines. I just think that, you have animal spirits at play, and this will probably take us through the summer and into the fall. But I would expect that, the world looks a little bit different once we get to December. But there's a lot of time between now and then, and I think watching the bond market, which you're starting to see yields break out here again to the upside, which, is a negative for equities, is very worth paying attention to here. But I do think you have volatility to the upside over the next couple months. And then we figure out where we end up based off of what's going to take place with tariffs, big, beautiful bill, deficits, government spending, and then more importantly, what does GDP look like? Because right now, our options as it relates to the deficits really are very few. And the strongest argument would be to figure out how to get this economy to grow faster and grow our way out of those deficits.
Very well, very well. Manny, Nasikala, thank you very much. And once again, we will regroup next Tuesday from the beautiful island of Crete. Kalotaksidis, travel safely. We'll be right back. We'll be right back after these messages with closing comments from our Consul General of Boston.